Today is February 26th. Mitch Keller extension gets done. We have baseball games. We'll talk about a big name with a big statement and an article that came out this week. You're listening to the Bridge to Buctober podcast.
Yins, guys. Thank you for listening to the Bridge to Buctober podcast, where we talk all about them Pittsburgh Pirates and that. My name is Josh, and I'm joined, as always, by my brother Jake. What's up, Jake?
75 and sunny today. Sorry, bud.
A bunch of snow this morning, but it is melting already. Most of it is melted by the sun. So we got that.
Yeah.
Hey, good job on the intro.
Thanks, bud.
Jake, Jake hitting the intro up. As everybody laughs while I say this, but I'm going to try to get through this thing the best I can. Voice is a little rocky. Man, just can't kick this.
Dude, it's tough this time of year, man, especially in Ohio. You got the weather jumping up and down like crazy. It's not always the best time of year.
Yeah. And I stay inside all the time. So
then you got Rugrats running around full of germs.
That's what it is, really, because like I felt like I was on the good side of this, and then all of a sudden one of them gets me sick and I'm throwing up.
Back to square one.
Back to square one, and the voice definitely takes a hit over the course of that. So it's wild.
Listen, yeah. I hate throwing up because of that.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. So the game on Saturday is actually going on right now. We are recording this thing Saturday afternoon. We've got some things going on tonight and tomorrow, and obviously we're getting ready to go down to spring training. Let's go.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped, man. It's a short trip for us. I think the plan the plan's always been for this to be a longer trip, but the way that this kind of came together this year, it's a Monday to Friday thing, but mostly like you'll be in late Monday and we're out early
like
Friday.
9 o'clock p.m., yeah.
Right, so it's basically 3 days. So we'll figure out what we're going to do. We know we'll be at a couple games, maybe down to Sarasota, maybe Pirate City. We don't know. But we'll try to figure it out.
I'd definitely like to get over to Pirate City. I think that'd be a cool place.
Yeah.
I want to check it out. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I don't know if there's anything. I guess if you're going to the games, you're not going to Pirate City, right? You know what I mean? Because what are you going to do? Just walk around and look at nothing? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. A lot to learn, I feel like, for us. Like, just to kind of understand. Neither one of us has ever been, right?
No.
Yeah, okay. I wondered it. I was like, wait, have you been? No.
Okay.
You been to any spring training?
So I've been to, who was it? It was the Angels. I went to Diablo Stadium.
Okay.
Out in Arizona when I was out there with the...
That's right. It was Arizona. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wow, man, we got some things to talk about. Mitch Keller, obviously the top of the list there. Mitch Keller extension. Who might be next? Athletic wrote an article this week, so everybody's been talking about it, and we'll touch a little bit on it. Spring training games have started. We won't be able to really talk a lot about what happened in those games because the first one's going on right now.
Right.
We're recording a little bit early, so can't really talk about them. I will say, though, Jared Jones, in the words of Alex Stumpf, pumping 98.99 with 2,500 plus RPM cutters. So for the first outing of the year, just looking strong.
Yeah.
Olivares, a big triple to tie the game earlier in the game. Looks like we're still down 5-3 now, but Davis, a good start. A lot of good things from here and there. And you also, Greg Brown and Neil Walker, those guys don't have a mean thing to say most of the time, so it's all good. Those guys don't know how to
Especially
talk.
day one.
Day
One, you can't have any negativity.
No, you can't.
No.
So anyway, also at the end of this thing, we're going to talk a little bit, I guess if time permits, because this isn't like a super pressing thing, but I think it's important. I think it's a really cool thing. And it just might mean a little bit for baseball, but Bill James, father of sabermetrics, admitted he was wrong to discredit situational hitting. So we'll get into that a little bit, kind of say what he said, and I don't know, have a little conversation about it. But I think that's absolutely bonkers. But all right, so let's do transactions first.
Sure.
Kane Smith-Njigba claimed off waivers from Seattle. So go ahead, talk about it.
I'm just excited. So I think I've said it last time when we lost him. I was like, I'm bummed, but think there was more in the tank. Blah blah blah. You've heard it already, but I do. I think there's more in the tank. I think he's got a lot to give yet, and I'm excited to see him back in black and gold. And we'll just see what he can do this spring and see if he can. I don't think there's a clear cut way for him to get on the roster, but you just never know.
I mean, if he shows up, I do. No, I mean a clear cut. Like there's 2 left-handed hitters that could play right field.
Yeah,
it's him and Palacios. If he totally blows Palacios out of the water, dude, I do see a path. I do see a path.
Yeah.
I don't know if that'll happen, you know what I'm saying? But I do see there is a path for him to be there.
It's got, big dude, just increase your launch angle a little bit, man.
Obviously, you know what I mean? I'm sure he's thinking about it, but
yeah.
If you hear little clicks and stuff, I have to keep Ludens in my mouth or I'll dry out. And so if you hear those little clicks, it's, that's what it is. Sorry. It's going to annoy me in my head when I'm moving it around and I'm just going to be like, crap, that's going to come through. All right, calm down.
Yeah, it's fine. He did get a little number change in there, huh? He changed his number to 0 since Fleming had 28.
Yeah. And I looked something up about it.
Oh, 100%. We always do.
Yeah.
I love what you have in here. Maybe it's because he thinks it'll wrap around the 0 because he's stupid New Jerseys.
Yeah. Dude, and the see-through paint. Oh, are we not? Dude,
it's so funny.
We can't.
Dude, hilarious.
Did you see the MLB put out a statement saying that they're not different? That the pant material and thickness is not different than what they used last year. Yeah, they are.
No. We're not dumb. Come on.
No, but doesn't it feel like MLB is?
They're trying to,
because this isn't MLB's call, right? This is Fanatics and Nike. Yeah. Fanatics is making them. Nike's putting their logo on it. Whatever, however you want to say it. That's my understanding of it. If you know more than I do and you're listening to this, correct me in the comments on YouTube or send me something on Twitter or something. But it seems like they basically, they signed the contract with MLB. MLB's trusted them with it. And there's no way that these uniforms went to MLB without some sort of approval.
Right.
But like I was talking with a friend of mine and I was like, yeah, but these guys who's approving that? Because they don't put the jerseys on. They don't know what the other jerseys felt like in comparison.
Right.
If they didn't put them on and see that you can see through them, then how would they know that you should send it back and say, no. But what it is Fanatics saying, oh, the pants are the same. And MLB says, oh, okay. That's what it seems like to me. Because you think MLB would be like, no, they're not. You know what I mean? Like, how are you missing that? So, I don't think it's not MLB's design, but at some point, there's got to be a check with the player. And the MLBPA has nothing to do with it. Dude, Tony Clark put something out that says this is between them. Like they have to work this out. We can argue to MLB and MLB can fight that fight, but it just matters of whether MLB will. Now, let's give benefit of the doubt. I assume they will. There's no way that they can go to opening day with see-through pants. Not to mention, they're not even allowed to tailor the pants for each player.
Right. That's the worst part in my opinion. So no, I saw Cruz working out. And I'm like, they got to do so. These aren't shorts. Like people should not be. You shouldn't be allowed to wear them above the knee. You want to pull them up clear to the knee, whatever. But
that's the thing,
this isn't
though.
shorts. They're not shorts.
I know.
They're pants.
There's a lot of players doing that now, though.
There are, and I think that I think it looks silly for one. Like, I mean, the way you want to look is the way you want to look.
Yep.
And this is just my opinion. I think it looks silly. But I don't know.
And when we were in high school, though,
because they can't tailor them for a 7-footer.
Yeah, what are they going to do? Well, but he wore them like that before. But I mean, if you think about, what the uniforms pants were back when we were in high school, though. Kind of when I was coming out and you were in, everything was super baggy. You watch videos now, like Jeff Bagwell looks ridiculous because it's so baggy and everything, and it's like, what are you doing? Like that looks way worse than anything they're doing now.
Worse than the above the knee.
It just looks like they're wearing pajamas a lot of times, and it's like I do like a slimmer uniform pant. So I get it. At least the ones they're wearing above the knee. At first I hated it. Now I'm kind of like whatever. What's it matter?
Oh yeah, and I'm kind of on the boat of whatever, but at the same time I think it looks silly.
Yeah, I mean, like when I was in high school, we all had to wear exactly the same thing. We had to make a choice whether we were pants up or pants down. That sounds funny. Pant legs up or pant legs down.
Right.
And we voted on it. Whatever one, everybody would wear the same thing. Yeah. It was all about it being uniform.
Right.
However, like I said, I don't mind it one way or another, but see-through is another story.
But I mean, Nick, I'm looking at these clips and I don't notice it during the game. I don't notice them being see-through during the game.
Yeah, it's a good point. I didn't actually pay attention to the clips. I know that we're wearing the grays, and I haven't seen any complaints about the grays being see-through.
Right. I forget who was on the TV. I think it was the Blue Jays was on TV. They were wearing blue with white. And you couldn't see the blue on it.
And the white's not all the way white now, right? Like it's kind of an off-white now for everyone? I don't really know. But either way, the whole cheapness of it is not something that I think we'll notice that much. But the names look ridiculous.
Yeah, the names look bad.
I don't think that we would have noticed the MLB like locker tag being down other than it was pointed out to us, and now we just want to move it back up. But I don't think we would.
I mean, honestly, it doesn't even bother me.
But if by moving it down, they had to make the name small.
Right.
So that's the part that I'm like, no, get those names bigger again. Yeah. Get your logo up a little bit. Even though that's not their call either, which is weird, right? Anyway, the cheapness of it, I think we would notice less. Like what they talked about on the sleeve, where instead of the piping being on the jersey, it's connected to the jersey.
Unless you went out and bought the authentic jersey, and then you'd notice it.
Right, which that's what I'm seeing because they're even more expensive now. And there's a guy with Blue Jays jerseys, and he's like, my authentic jersey from 2 years ago might be better than this new one. And he's sending it back because it costs 4 times the price.
Yeah.
But anyway, maybe that's why he went with number 0. So for me, being goofy, the only 2 players in Pirates history who have worn the number 0, which is hilarious because in the notes I wrote number 2 because it's 2 players, but the number 0, Junior Ortiz in 1989 and UL Washington in 1986. Washington also wore number 28 in that same season, which was Smith-Njigba's number last year. And Ortiz changed from 26 to 0 during the 86 season, which means that nobody's worn 0 for an entire season for the Pirates. And maybe Smith-Njigba won't either if Josh Fleming gets released and doesn't make the team. And then Smith-Njigba says, you know what, I'll go back to 28. Then he will be...
I don't like the number 0.
He will be just like UL Washington, if that's the case. So, little history there that means nothing.
Right.
Let's get into the good stuff, man. Mitch Keller. Where are we
Let's
at?
go.
We got to get it in here. Yep. I don't know where any of my buttons are since I removed everything.
Nice.
There we go. Mitch Keller gets paid 5 years, $77 million. I don't know. I don't know where to go. I think this is a good thing. I think anybody who turns it into a bad thing is just reaching to say things that
So
are
it's
bad.
actually what, like a 4-year extension, right?
Well, it starts this year.
Right, but he already had a contract this year for 1 year, so it's like
It
you know,
erases this year, is my understanding.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It erases this year, starts this year, whatever the term was agreed to in year one is this year instead of what they agreed to before.
Gotcha. That's cool.
So he hasn't had that breakout full season yet. And I think that's maybe why this deal was able to get done where it is. You're buying 3 years of free agency from him.
Yeah.
And I think the last two, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, I think they're like 18 and 20 million, somewhere around there. So like he's getting it. He's getting paid. But even then, 5 years from now, 18 and 20 will be like what Jack Flaherty just signed for this year. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, with the way the market value changes so much.
And the idea is that if he continues to pitch like he just did last year, full season like he did last year, he's worth every penny.
Yeah.
Even if he doesn't get to be that, even if he doesn't take that next step, right? Because we expect him to take that next step, full season. We talked about maybe why some of the reasons for the inflated ERA had to do with having two starters down the stretch and them saying, hey man, if you feel good, you're staying out there.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether your curveball's curving or your changeup's breaking. You know what I mean? Like you're staying out there. If your stuff ain't good, but you're healthy, we need the innings. And that's
figure it out.
And that's classic. Like that's what you do. Maybe not as much anymore because of the way that we use pitchers these days, but there's nothing wrong with that, I guess is what I'm saying. If he's healthy. Now we see a little bit of Johan Oviedo where it's like, yeah, but did you stretch him a little too much? You know what I mean? A young kid is always going to tell you he feels good.
Right.
So there's a little bit of that. Game's over. We lost. Big deal, right?
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, don't care. No, but this to me is very good in so many levels. And maybe and I'll tee you up here so I can take a break here, but what does this do? I mean, he had a lot of struggles. He's gone through it. What does this do for the confidence of these young pitchers who are all about to make their debuts in this year or next year? What does this do for them seeing that the Pirates will, like, if you go through it or whatever and you stick to it and you come out on the other side, they're going to show their confidence in you if it's there or something along those lines, right? What does this do for the young pitchers to say, oh, they're actually willing to pay you?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to give you a lot of hope and a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Ambition to really strive for that next level and really show up and show out. Like, hey, I like it here. This isn't just get to the big leagues and get traded like they have been in the past. It's not a guarantee they're going to extend me, but there's the opportunity. They've done it. They're showing they're willing to do it with certain guys. So let's go get it, man. Go earn it.
Right.
I mean, it's gonna fuel that fire. It has to.
Yeah, I think it's also maybe speaks to them in a way to say, like, stay with it. You know, a lot of guys, for one reason or another, oh man, I'm injured again, and you know what I mean? Or man, I had a rocky start, and just knowing that, like, keep grinding. Like Keller never stopped. right? He always pushed. And the fact that they honor something like that, and this isn't a Pirates thing, right? I mean, we're not going to sit here. We know what other article came out this week. We're not, kidding ourselves here. This isn't a way to say, this is for any organization. And a lot of organizations are they do this for the same reasons. You start showing now after Hayes and Reynolds and now Keller, you start showing that you're willing to say, hey, we believe, and this is from their words, right? We believe the way that we're going to build this thing up is from within. And when we do that, we're willing to go there. These are discounts. This is not an expensive contract. It's money. This isn't money to kid around with, but if he gets any better, he outperforms his contract.
Yeah.
And so with that said, it's like that's guaranteed money though that he gets. And this is a guy who, I mean, you talk about an exhale, all that he's been through and all that he's probably put on himself to say like, if I don't figure this out, they're going to send me back to Omaha and I don't even live there. Right? You know what I mean? One of those kind of things. And it's you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of pressure on these guys. And I think this maybe helps calm that down a little bit. Stay the course, do your job. Don't give up in a way. I don't know. But it also, I mean, I think it just does good for morale and for, that line of thinking for the younger players, not just pitchers, but we've seen it with position players already. Now to know pitchers, because I would have doubted it a little bit.
Yeah, and that goes to say something too, like us doubting it a little bit. It's good for the fans to see it, like not just going to get rid of everybody. Yeah, we're never going to pay that top dollar for anybody. It's not going to happen. It never will. It's just nice to see that some can stick around. Some can sign that deal.
I haven't seen the comments about like, we'll trade him after 3 anyway. I haven't seen that. I'm actually a little bit surprised.
Yeah.
And also, yeah, maybe. Maybe.
Yeah.
And maybe that's okay. Maybe not after 3,
4.
but maybe 4, yeah. If you've got enough guys there to take that spot.
Right. I mean,
because I've seen other people to say like, Edward Cabrera is washed. If the Marlins are trying to move him, he's washed. Well, they're not trying to move him. They're trying to make their team better, and they can move him. Why him? Yeah. Why nobody else? Well, he must not be good if he's a 6th starter. Well, no, he's probably not a 6th starter, but they could move their 6th in there because they believe in him.
Right.
You have to give up something good to get something good. So, if you can trade from a strength and save some coin, you know that they'll choose to save coin. Not saying I would necessarily, but you never know.
Right.
If it opens you up.
If the right deal comes up.
If it opens you up somewhere else. But anyway, that's years down the road. And I guess I say that just to say, like, I'm not going to sit here and say, no, they'll keep him all 5 years. Like, maybe not. And maybe it's not the smart thing. But for now, 5 years.
Right.
And we said this before, right? If they're winning in that 5th year, they'll keep him. Yeah. They should keep him. Mm-hmm. So
it's tough though. You have to weigh those options out and see where the team's at and what the team needs, and
it's all going to be. We'll talk about it in 4 years.
Just think about it. Would you rather lose somebody for nothing, or would you rather get something in return? That's the bottom line. You got to continually figure out a way to make your team better, and that's stocking up your farm so that the next wave's ready.
Yeah. I don't want to trade Mitch Keller before we even get to see him pitch with his new extension. So let's just stick with Mitch Keller's extended, and we're very excited about it.
Yeah.
The work that he's put in is what it's sometimes you're excited for your team for doing something like this. There are times where it's like, dude, I'm just pumped for Mitch Keller. Mm-hmm. I didn't have that feeling with Hayes. Probably didn't even have that feeling with Reynolds. I think Reynolds, the overwhelming feeling was finally we can stop talking about these trade rumors.
Right.
We knew this is what he wanted.
Yeah.
Hayes, I feel like probably came a little bit out of It was a little surprising. This one is like, man, we just know what he's been through.
Mm-hmm.
And this one feels good for that reason. So I'm really excited. I mean, Brian Reynolds, he sounded so excited. I think I even saw one of his eyebrows go up for a second. I was like, whoa, this guy's about to throw a party.
That's hilarious.
I just saw somebody put up the video mashup of Brian Reynolds talking about the night before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, but, today's a new day and we're here now. And then it clips right to Palacios going, last night was crazy. It's like two different people completely.
Yeah. Hilarious.
It's good stuff. So Mitch Keller's done, and the question goes here, who's next? You have to go there. Here's what I'll say. Hayes done on opening day.
Mm-hmm.
Announced when they get back. Right? Reynolds done. Thought it was going to be opening day. Wasn't. And then they had to wait or the home opener, right? Then they had to wait for them to come all the way back. Because you do these things in Pittsburgh, right?
Right.
And so they had a couple more things to iron out, wait for the road trip, comes back, gets it done. Most of that work was done in spring training. We talked about it last week. I think we did. At least it was in my notes for last week. I tried to find it, and I couldn't. Maybe we skipped it because of time. Extensions happen in spring training. They don't happen in December very often. They happen in spring training.
Yeah.
These kinds.
Yeah.
For most teams.
This one happened quick, too.
This one was very quick, which means there still could be another one. If there's another one this year, who is it? I only for me it's one guy.
You're saying if there's another one this year?
Yeah.
Jeez, that's tough.
To me, there's one guy that there's an option on that I don't have to see anything else.
Bednar?
Yeah. Yeah, it would be Bednar. And I think that's not a mega, because you started saying Cruz, but there's still 98 games.
Question.
98 games. Yeah. We got to know. I heard one reference to it saying, I got to know that he's even a shortstop, because shortstop money is different than if he ends up being an outfielder.
Yeah.
I think, I think it might have been Gary on Fan Forum. Sorry, for those of you just listening, wearing the new Pirates Fan Forum merch today. So just came in the mail yesterday. Good. So yeah, good job, guys, and Yin's shirts for doing it. It's a cool thing. So thought I'd support our friends. So anyway, yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, I think you got to know.
Yeah, you do. You got to know what you have, and you can't invest blind money.
Yeah, and I think the other guy that I'm big on, I think you are too, Jack Sawinski. It is another. It's another year for me. Sawinski gets done next year, or it doesn't get done.
Yeah.
To me, that's what I think. I think
he's poised to have a big breakout season this year. I could see him hitting 30 this year.
And if he does, you got to get it done, because if he does it again, and he's only, because then he's 3 years from free agency. If he does it again, he's only 2 years, and there's maybe a guy signs an extension there, but I think at that point you're kind of like, hey, I think I can wait. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, for me, it's Bednar, and it's not the kind of deal you get done for O'Neal Cruz. You know what I mean? It's a completely different world. This is a relief pitcher. I think if you're gonna throw an extension at him, I mean, where's he at now? He just hit arbitration for the first time, so he's got 2 years. There's this year, and then 2 years after. So he's got 3 years of control now.
I don't think you see him go past 5.
No, I think you go 5 years, and you don't go any further than that.
It's that reliever, man.
And the relief,
it's the reliever after.
What do you do? 40, 50?
It's
You
tough,
can't
man.
go. You're not going to want to go over 50.
No, I'm saying for me, it's just tough to throw out a number right now. Like it.
Well, Chapman was just paid 10.5. So you're going to have to at least give him that.
Yeah.
At the end of
So
that
they're gonna 5
contract,
years,
maybe
like 60.
maybe that fifth year, maybe that fourth and fifth year at 11 million, something like that. So if you're trying to get like I forget what his number is this year. It's close to like 412, right? Because the jokes were made, so it's around 4 million. So if you up that to 5, and then you know what I'm saying, if you start there, and then you go, keep incrementally going up the next 2 years, and then those 2 free agent years can be 11 million.
Yeah, and I'm just going to throw this out there too. Yes, he's from Pittsburgh. Yes, he wants to play in Pittsburgh. He's still not going to sign a stupid deal.
I mean, I don't know.
I guess, I don't know. If anybody's going to, it would be him.
Yeah.
But I still don't.
Is that stupid?
I mean, like, not stupid, like a stupid cheap deal.
That's what I mean. But is that? I mean, that's paying a reliever pretty fair. And he's probably not going to be as good 5 years from now as he'll be this year.
Right.
So
you're
kind of paying.
He's not gonna take under market value, like well under market value, just so he can stay in Pittsburgh. It just business just doesn't work like that.
You just told me you watched that whole thing with Greg Brown and Fort, and you don't believe he'd take under market value to stay in Pittsburgh. I think he would. I don't think much. I mean, he's not going to be silly about it, but I think he would.
Right.
But anyway.
I mean, we give him enough icy lights, he might sign it.
I feel like he's the one that could get done.
Yeah.
Where the other guys, it might be too early.
Yeah.
Unless Sawinski signs one. If he signs one at what he's done now, and it's real affordable, like think Jose Tabata territory, 30 million, something like that. Yeah. It ain't gonna be. Because that guy has valuable skills.
Yeah.
Like skills that people pay for.
Who was it that we were talking about with Ozzie Albies? Like an Ozzie Albies.
Yeah.
That's a steal. You know what I mean? Like he signed it.
Yeah. You never know.
You never know.
All right. Anybody? There's nobody else. I mean, like we said, Henry Davis still has to prove it. Andy Rodriguez is injured. Pitching's really hard, but I've heard people say, why not Skeens? Why not just blow it out right now? Man, that'd be a tough sell.
I think if they do any type of extension with Skeens, it might be like next year.
You want to see a little bit first?
Yeah, I mean, you want to at least get one full professional season.
5 2/3 innings, I think, is what it is so far professionally. Like it's.
I mean, you look at the Jackson Churio. I mean, he spent all year in professional baseball last year.
Just 1 year though, 2 years, right?
Might have been 2 years. Last year he was 19.
Right.
So he's going into his 20 age.
And if he's international, he's probably signed at 16.
Right.
You know what I mean? So he was in the Dominican or whatever for a couple of years. But yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's fun to think about, but right now, it's Mitch Keller, dude.
Mm-hmm.
It's exciting. You ride it, and the players see it. They believe it. It's part of the identity the Pirates are starting to create now. Is you play well and you work hard, and you get honored for it. And so, hopefully that continues. Which I think
teammate too.
Yeah,
I think being a good teammate goes a long way with this organization.
And let me say something that is a perfect segue into our next thing. We have seen and heard that Bob Nutting specifically, is the word I want to use there, is willing to pay extension money and longer-term contracts, which are more affordable, obviously, to his players that they have come up with, that they have that they've seen grow and are quote unquote good people, good teammates, good in the clubhouse. The only thing I'm a little bit nervous about is they're all quiet, all three of them. Keller a little bit of, but mostly even keeled, quiet, don't get too high, don't get too low. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I mean, those are good qualities too, but I see what you're saying. There's nobody you're not signing that guy long term to ignite the clubhouse.
Well, no, it's actually just like he's willing to put forth the money for that sort of thing, like you said, good character type things.
Mhm.
And so like he will let we've heard from different places. I don't want to call anybody sources, right? But from different places, 80 to 85 million is the money that they were going to spend this year, right?
Right.
It's been reported a couple different places. And then it's 91 already. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because of this Keller deal. He's willing to go past a certain number if it's for
the
his
right fit.
internal guys.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And, unfortunately, free agency, he doesn't see the same value. And maybe that's because he cares about the person more than the baseball. You know what I mean? Because he's saying, I don't know that guy. Why would I pay him a bunch of money? You know what I'm saying? And that's what you have to deal with as a GM of Bob Nutting, right? When your boss says, I don't even know that guy, and you're like, bro, he's a first baseman that's going to hit us 35 homers, but I don't know him. There's been a lot of stories and opinions as we move into the next topic here that have been written since this article by The Athletic has come out.
Mm-hmm.
And we're aware of who Bob Nutting is and what he is.
Mm-hmm.
We've been critical all this offseason of where the budget is and who's keeping it there. I just talked about it. And you just, it's a good article. I don't think it's a pointless article. I've seen a lot of people say like, oh, The Athletic, there's no point in even writing this, blah, blah, blah. Except we know all this stuff. But The Athletic is a national publication or whatever you call it. You know what I mean? Other people didn't know about this. So it's still not going to change anything. But it is information for other people that didn't know what Pirates fans know, right?
Right.
So all you can hope is that Ben Cherington and Neil Huntington before him and the people that they hire to make decisions and perform tasks do everything they can to give us a fighting chance.
Yeah.
And, as fans of sports fans in general, you're going to be critical of those guys. You read this article, you kind of realize one of those things like, if I'm mad at Ben Cherington, you can almost always keep going up.
Yeah.
Why is Cherington not getting these free agent deals done? Well, because they went past what his boss said he was allowed to go.
Right.
And whether you say it's Nutting or Williams or whatever, to me, it's all the same. It all comes from the top.
Right.
And I think seeing something like this makes it pretty obvious. And there's some if you haven't read it, you know what I mean. If you have access to it, if not, there's enough people posting about it on Twitter, X, probably Facebook, I imagine, with laughing emojis beside it and told you so's or whatever Facebook people say. And you know what I mean? There's enough people talking about it, with quotes and whatnot that's in there about the things that are said on it that you could find the information. There's not a way to stop it, right?
Right.
It is what it is kind of thing. I'll say from my standpoint, Jake, we've said this before. This isn't the podcast. At least this isn't the microphone, I'll say, to listen to if you want to hear people crying about the owner every week. I'm not going to do it. I won't speak for you. I'm not going to do it. What's known is known. I'm here to talk baseball. I'm here to root for the Pirates, regardless of this situation. We've known this situation for a long time. I'm not sugarcoating it. I'm not like trying to hide it.
Yeah.
I know what it is. I just don't want to be a broken record saying the same thing every week because we could. And we choose not to.
Yeah.
So I'm just not going to dwell on it, I guess. You know what I mean?
Right.
Is where I'm at.
There's just no point to dwell on it.
I'm not going to.
What me or you say on here isn't going to change Bob Nutting. So.
No.
It's just fine.
And it's not going to make him sell the team.
Right.
And
we understand what's going on. We understand Sherrington's doing what he can. I'm not gonna just sit here and think about that. I'm gonna choose to think about the game that's on the field and the players who are playing the game that's on the field who have nothing to do with the budget.
Right. Right. And also, like, because you brought it up. You said, that Sherrington's doing what he's doing. And Huntington and Derek Shelton and Clint Hurdle and Andrew McCutcheon and Brian Reynolds. You know what I'm saying? Like, and when they're not doing, we'll call that out too. Because to me, that's more important. What's at the top, we already know. We already know what the problem is there. And I believe that there's still a path to be successful. It's hard. And that's, that kind of sucks. But it is hard. But there is a path. And you have to execute.
Yep.
And when you don't, that's what I'd rather talk about.
Right.
Is not executing on what is within your means. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree.
To me, that's just a more interesting conversation because you can change that.
Right.
Not like I can change it, right? We like the discussion. We're not changing anything. But you know what I'm saying? Like, they can change that. They can make something different in that kind of a sense.
Right.
But what you're not going to change is the fact that he's cheap. And he'll be cheap. And that's not going to change.
Right.
And really, like, MLB is not going to change it. Bob Nutting is not the only owner who's like this. This is not a one guy story.
Right.
This is not a like, whoa, is me, Pirates fan, who has an owner who's cheap. No, there's a lot, probably. I mean, maybe not more than half, but.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Everybody's going to pinch pennies when they can.
Yeah. I think it's probably some of this stuff goes on other places more than we know. Yeah. Until The Athletic writes an article about them, and then we say, "Oh, they're like us too." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and that's why they put stuff like this out. Is, information. Like I said, we knew this. I mean, not all of it, right? Not the details, no. But we knew it didn't change the opinion at all about what we have to deal with.
Right.
So, I don't know. That's probably the most we've talked about Bob Nutting on this podcast. Do you think?
I would say probably so.
If we did in another episode that I've blocked out of my memory, then we did. But from what I can remember,
we may have had one early on.
You know what?
Had one early on. I'm not sure.
I'll tell you this. Excuse me. About choked on my on my Ludens there. I just can't. Once it gets really small, I can't figure out a spot that I can put it without spitting it out when I talk. So I'm constantly moving this thing around. I got to stop. Anyway, I've actually probably said more like I've probably said more nice things than I've said mean things. And I'm realizing that right now, because all of the things that are like, well, that's dumb, we don't talk about. And every once in a while, he does something. You're like, oh, that was a good move. And so I throw a kudos out for that good move. And then realize that like we don't talk about all the things that are just constant bad.
Yeah.
But every once in a while I throw
it's overdone.
So it is overdone. But like I just am coming to realization that I've probably given him more kudos than I have crap. And that's unfair. and we pride ourselves on being fair, and that's unfair. So maybe I should every once in a while throw a jab saying something about cheap. I guess we do this all the time.
Dang it, Bobby.
Yeah.
So we're still there, and that's a two-parter, right? Because we can throw that one at Manfred and him.
Yeah.
But we do throw that out there every once in a while. But we do it kind of tongue-in-cheek because we know it's not going to change.
Right.
I don't know. Do you have any other takeaways from that's separate from what I was saying?
Really, no. I mean, it's a broken record to sit here and beat this like a dead horse. Like, I don't know. He's cheap. He ain't gonna change. Waiting a day to make a trade to save 30 grand is, I don't know. Does that make me feel different about that whole thing about that? Does that make me feel differently? Like he's even worse than I thought? No. Because what did one day make a difference in the game? Probably nothing.
Yeah, I guess.
But then he saved 30 grand. But you're just trying to make it look worse than it is. Like that's what difference did that day make, and what difference does $30,000?
Yeah,
I don't care how much the industry's worth.
Yeah,
$30,000 is $30,000. You brought it up before the show. That's a ballpark employee salary probably for a year. You know what I mean? We got a kid. Well, getting a nice little interruption. But it's all right.
Yeah. Kid has to poop. That's all.
All right. Perfect. Yeah. Where's grandma?
Exactly. He's left the door open.
That's funny.
Too much of a laugh there. Got me coughing. I'm going to keep going. Don't let me interrupt you. I'm going to close the door.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, just overall, I guess it's no real different takeaways than what you had. I mean, didn't really move the needle on how I feel about Bob nutting. I'm ready to move on if you are.
Done. Done. We've got one more thing here. Let's wrap this thing up. And this to me was like a cool thing that, baseball. We talk a lot of baseball here. This is a baseball podcast, and sometimes we talk about things that aren't 100% Pirates. I say that because everything baseball still can go back there. And this was a cool thing this week. So in case you missed it, I guess, for you stat heads and analytic nerds, Bill James himself went to Twitter or X. When are we going to stop saying Twitter or
Never.
X? Never, because we're all just holding on to the fact that it's still Twitter. Do you think someday it goes back?
Probably.
Okay, well then we'll keep doing it. Anyway, on the 17th to make an important claim. I don't know if this hits you the way that it kind of does me, and so I'm going to ask you questions about this because this is one thing that we haven't really talked about at all.
Right.
And so, I'm going to paraphrase what he said here, just to make it a little more my language and not so smart. And anyway. He says, I have to take responsibility for convincing a generation of researchers to write off situational hitting variations as flukes. Okay. That's the first thing. But that's the meat and potatoes. Convincing a generation just because he's the guy, right? Bill James, the father of sabermetrics, he's the guy. So people, I saw a bunch of comments to his posts saying, dude, when people argue with me, I say, but Bill James said, fill in the blank. And so now this is big for them because that's all their argument's been. Anyway, convincing a generation of researchers is definitely what he did. However, the thing is to write off situational hitting variations as flukes, saying like, yeah, this guy did good then, that's a fluke. Okay. He says, I may have been wrong to do that. We have vastly better data now than we did 40 years ago. Let's look at the options again. And you go, whoa, right?
Yeah.
So he goes on to say that he's still agnostic about clutch ability, kind of separating it out because a lot of the comments then still went to clutch ability. Ability too. Ability, not like the statistics, right? The statistics are there. We can say what somebody did, but like to say, he's basically saying like, I don't know about clutch ability. If a player hits well with men on base, that increases his value, but it doesn't mean he's going to hit better in late innings of close games or in the World Series. It could be a totally unrelated effect. And so he's saying like it could be, we can't really put all those things into one. The key to better understanding of the data is to stop generalizing about it, stop putting together things that may not actually have anything to do with one another. And I don't know, you kind of get to the point where you're like, I'm relieved because as a baseball fan, and you know, we kind of, specifically me, I teeter-totter that world because I'm not like uber smart, right? I'm not like a math whiz and all those things. So like I see me as really interested in the statistics and all that stuff, but there are some things that are just beyond me because I'm not there. But I'm also like an old school baseball fan, right? I was a bunter when I played, so I valued that. And I don't understand, like when I was in high school, this is aging me a little bit. When I was in high school, we didn't walk because you wanted to hit. You know what I mean? And if somebody would have told me that walks are good, I maybe would have been okay. Instead, I'm up there swinging at everything. Like, I'm not going to walk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, it just wasn't taught. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's a thing that is like, as the guy coming out and saying this with a bunch of people who are diehard saying, this is not important. And so I think it's big. I actually put a post out there.
For sure.
Actually, I'm going to follow my notes a little bit here. So if it sounds like I'm reading, I took some notes. I'm going to follow them a little bit here. I think the point is situational hitting, not necessarily clutch hitting, is what he's talking. Clutch hitting is kind of the focus here on that second part, but I wonder how much like bunting a runner to second, moving a runner up with nobody out plays into this conversation. Either way, like I said, he says something, you listen. You know what I mean? That's just all there is to it. So to what I was about to say there, I reposted this, and I had put a quote, in there or whatever, and I said that it's an example of research that led to a conclusion, but not stopping the research. Always leave room for the conclusion to change. More data in research could lead to something different. Now, this was my thought process when I read this the first time. I said, this is awesome because yes, he was convicted of a conclusion that they came to. He put that out there in confidence, but then as the data kept rolling in, he said, whoa, I think we need to rethink this. Actually, Bill James responded to that saying, that's what we got wrong. We closed off the doors that could lead to a different conclusion. We should not have done that. So now it's more like, this isn't just as a result of, like, he wasn't still looking at the data. However, he's saying they should have been. And this probably would have changed years ago had they kept looking at that data and kept analyzing it with, I can't think of the word there, but with better scrutiny,
Right.
is what I was thinking. So anyway, my question here is, you follow all this first off? You follow all this where we're going here just to make sure? Okay. I didn't know if you saw this. I know that I told you, like, hey, I was kind of like, hey, man, Bill James is like, I kind of gave him some kudos, and he said, whoa. Actually, this is where we got it wrong. So I was like, that's pretty cool. Anyway, any chance this leads to players and GMs and evaluators, instructors, and all that stuff changing the way that they value a player, maybe go into a player's abilities, practices that instructors are teaching, metrics that you're looking at? You think this does make a change because it's him saying it?
I think it'll make a change to the evaluators, because I feel like since sabermetrics has been so prominent, that the evaluators are more numbers guys than pure baseball guys. Sure, they have baseball background.
Some
Not
of
saying
them.
they don't. Some of them.
But I think it's combined, right? You have the baseball guys with the analytics guys.
Right. But, I mean, it's going to have to change them a little bit. I think your baseball guys, they've been sitting back there going, yeah, but. And now the evaluators are going to be like, okay. They might take those buts more into consideration now than maybe they would have. So I see you soloed my screen, so I understand you're going through something, but
back
this big blue knob over here, you know what I'm saying? I wasn't set up. That's fine.
Oh,
I didn't, that's
I didn't
it's
see
just
what was on your screen.
you can't see my boom arm right now, but when you go solo, you can see it. It doesn't matter. I don't care. You actually got a nice shot of my base hanging on the wall, so that was nice.
There you go. I'm gonna go back to it so I can see it.
Yeah,
Okay.
see that?
Oh, I see the blue logo. I see.
Yeah, this guy right here.
I got it. Yep, you're good.
Anyway, I just think they're going to listen to the but guys a little bit more now, and I think they should. And they should have been all along, because baseball, it is about the numbers, but it's not 100% about the numbers.
Yeah, I see that. I wonder if they create better numbers. I wonder if those numbers do come into play. Well, you hit, I mean, we already talked about this. Like, you're late in a game. Guy leads off with a double or a single and steals a base, and you kind of inside out a pitch and end up grounding out to second, but you move that runner up to third with one out.
It's big.
That's important. That's a momentum thing. You're like, all right, we're in position now. Now, it requires the next guy to care about not striking out. You know what I'm saying? And stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But is there a way to, like, that hits his batting average if you're an average guy? That hits his on-base percentage if you're an on-base guy? That's not a sacrifice.
Right.
Right? It's unselfish baseball. It's what we were taught was important to win games.
Right.
To not worry about your numbers, but to help win that game.
Right.
And that's just so hard to quantify. What makes a difference if you're able to do that in April versus in the World Series?
I think the hardest thing to quantify it too is, did you do it on purpose?
You can't.
Did you try to go backside on purpose, move the runner over? Or did you get jammed and full? You know what I'm saying?
Did you try to hit a home run?
That stuff.
No, none of that.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying? None of that is there. Oh, you went down the line backside. That was awesome. With nobody on and two outs. What a double. It doesn't mean you meant. So I don't think that really plays. The ability's there, whether it's intentional or not, I guess. But yeah, I mean, as far as like the clutch ability stuff goes, like, you want to say like, well, this guy's got a slow heartbeat. With games on the line, World Series, this guy's going to come through. Or at least he's going to give you a good shot because he's he's even keeled. He's one of those guys that, like I said, they're important. Never get too high, never get too low. And And so you know what I mean? He's the guy you want up in this situation because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's something that'll never be quantified. You don't know what Joe Shoe is going through on May 16th when he got a call up because somebody went on the IL for 10 days. And he's about to get sent back down because that guy's feeling good and just did his rehab. And he wants to make an impression because he doesn't know, right? This is his last option year, whatever it is. You don't know the type of pressure that's on that player in May that's not any different than a player who just has pressure in September in a pennant race in the moment because the team needs you. Like there's pressure in both places. There's no way to quantify pressure. We don't know what the pressure is.
Right.
You don't know what it's like on a human when his dad's dying and he's trying to grind through this game.
Yeah.
Or his baby's about to be born and he just needs to get through this game. You know what I mean? Like that's why that kind of stuff is never, ever going to be quantified. And it's a story you have to tell. And that's why he included, well, clutchability, I'm agnostic about. And the reason is because he's like, you can't back that up with data.
Right.
I can't say that Reggie Jackson is just better in those moments. And to be honest with you, like even if you've got great stats, let's say you're 4 for 6 on the season, late and close with runners in scoring position, because those are all numbers you can look up today. But all 6 of those at-bats came in April and May.
Right.
You know what I mean? And by the way, you did it against the guy who just made his major league debut, or it was early in the season while they were waiting to call up the guy to make his major league debut. And so Bailey Falter was out there and you happened to crush lefties. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
You just don't know. And it's all of those things it's just too much. But situational hitting is a different thing. It is a real thing that helps teams win games. And even though it doesn't really help an individual, it may help you win a game. It's a baseball thing.
Right.
It's not a statistic that we should ignore, I guess. I don't really know. I just think that like when you start going down these paths, man, it's so difficult.
For sure.
But the difference is, I guess, here's the thing that I'm taking away from this, because I know we kind of went a little off right there and just talking about, you know, baseball versus analytics. And that's fine. It's conversation. But to say, I'm trying to collect this thought, because I know that this is basically like, this is it, right? I'm trying to mic drop here. That's my goal. Trying to get a mic drop moment here.
Setting up the mic drop.
When we said, hey, on base is actually more important than batting average, then hitters change the way they hit. We've said this before. You tell me about a guy in 1993 who has a high on-base percentage, a low average. He was ticked off that he had a low average. He didn't care about his on-base percentage being high. I mean, sure, he's fine. He's like, yeah, I mean, I'm getting on base, but I really want that average up. He was trying to hit for a good average.
Right.
A guy now does not care about a 230 batting average if his on-base percentage is good, because he says, well, on-base percentage is more important anyway.
Yeah.
Because the analytics is what told us to think that way. Because the analytics said, hey, if you want to win baseball games, be on base. Guys on base. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter if you hit on base or walk on base.
Right.
Just so long as you're on base, that's what creates runs, right? And those are the good things that come from analytics. But a guy in 1987 was not thinking that way. He
Right.
wanted his average to be high. That was his goal. And so I measure him based on what he was trying to do. And I'll measure guys today on what they're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, striking out is something they don't care about. They just don't care. They're like, yeah, it's fine, but it's not any different than a ground out to second. Where now, maybe Bill James says, hey, it is different than a ground out to second if there's a guy on second base.
Right.
And so that's what I'm kind of hoping comes out of this is, will this change a generation of hitters and instructors and evaluators if they're able to quantify this in a certain way? But will this change the approach at the plate with a guy on second and nobody out? Instead of, well, I don't care, I still want to get on base so we can score me too, which is the thought process right now. And it's like, well, but if you want to win games, let's maybe move that guy up. Let's maybe bring that guy in. Let's take a little off our swing and get a base hit and not worry about the home run or the double or the, getting whatever it is, right? And then sacrificing or risking that strikeout, trying to do damage, and instead maybe choke up with 2 strikes. And there's been some guys recently who are doing that a little bit more. I think that plays a lot of Cody Bellinger's home run dip, is that he said, I'm going to try to strike out less. And you see some of his swings with 2 strikes are like, wow, that was pretty defensive. And you know what I mean? And that's intentional,
Yeah.
And maybe that's a value that he actually, that actually changed in him that might actually be a sign that he is turning a corner again. But anyway, not to go on about him. But the thing is, I'm kind of hoping that this changes some things.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so.
That if there's more of a movement here that says, hey, we're looking at the data and situational hitting is important, will they actually practice bunting again, Jake?
Probably not.
Not that far?
Not that far. I mean, they should, but I don't know. It's going to be tough to revert back. It's going to be tough to take, even though it's new data and a new old way of thinking. I don't know. It's just going to be tough for them to readapt some of that.
Well, I think it goes.
And I hope they're gonna, not want to strike out as much, because I don't really love seeing all the strikeouts. I think that's more boring than, make a play. I know they're professionals and they're gonna make the play the majority of the time, but still make a play.
Yeah, cool stuff, man. I'd like to see, how this turns out. And maybe it's a year, maybe it's a couple of years, maybe it takes a while. I mean, launch angle and all the things. Fly balls are now better. How many times did we say, like, hey, fly balls are easier to catch, hit the ball on the ground? And now they're like, hey, ground balls don't do anything.
What was the game where no pop, no pull?
Oh, yeah. No pop, no pull. Now it's like pop and pull.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't, you keep learning. And, you keep growing and you keep trying to define ways that win games. And I think this is going to challenge that little bit of question is, hey, are you caring about doing damage in yourself, or do you care about this team and winning this game? And maybe it turns into that. Maybe they find out, hey, we are looking at the options, and it turns out bunting still sucks. And that's fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that I'm hoping for a specific outcome. They might find out that striking out still doesn't matter unless there's a guy on second with nobody out. Might be the only time they care. You know what I mean? But I don't know. It'll be interesting. But either way, Bill James coming out and saying something could change things, even if it just changes the analytic minds who sometimes can be a little, well, the numbers say this.
Yeah.
Hey, keep looking at the numbers and maybe don't discredit what 100 years of baseball has taught us too. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. Kind of cool. Can't wait to be in Bradenton this week, man. Really looking forward to it.
I mean, so there's two things. That's twofold, right? Can't wait to be in Bradenton, see some spring training. And, dude, we haven't had some quality time one-on-one in a long time.
Yeah. Little bro trip here.
Yep.
Yep. Nobody else going with us. Initially, it was going to. And I'm looking forward to the time when it becomes that.
Right.
But, yeah, I have one regret, man. 3 days. That's it. That's the only regret I have.
Yeah.
So, kind of wish this was like a little bit longer. We could enjoy an actual, like, I feel like I'm going to have a hard time not being stressed. So, I think it'll be good.
Yep, we'll be good.
All right, let's go Bucks.
Let's go Bucks.
Thanks for listening to my dad and Uncle Jake on the Bridge to Buctober podcast. Follow them on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Bridge2Buctober. Don't forget to subscribe so you know when new episodes are released. Clear the deck, cannonball coming, and let's go Bucks.